Linda J. Hansen is a political strategist, #1 best-selling author, speaker, and the host of the Prosperity 101 podcast. Linda shares her incredible journey from growing up in an entrepreneurial family to running restaurant chains in high school, homeschooling 6 children, and eventually stepping into the political arena where she was second in command of a major presidential campaign. Join us as Linda delves into the valuable lessons she's learned about maintaining priorities, navigating different seasons of life, and the profound impact of educating others about freedom and prosperity. Tune in for an inspiring conversation that underscores the power of resilience, faith, and purpose-driven work. As always, if you found value from this content, please like and subscribe. And now here's my conversation with Linda J. Hansen. Enjoy. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Beyond Fulfillment podcast. I'm your host, Dave Goulas, and this week, my guest is political strategist, #1 best-selling author, speaker, and the host of the Prosperity 101 podcast, Linda J. Hansen. Welcome, Linda.
Thank you so much for having me. I look forward to our conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. We appreciate you taking the time to be here. If you could, for everyone, Linda, can you give us your backstory and how you got into being an entrepreneur?
I think I was born an entrepreneur. My father was very entrepreneurial, and I'm very, very thankful for that. While he did at many times work for another company, I could see his thought processes. And early on, he involved me in a lot of decisions about marketing and things. Even like at 8 years old, I helped devise a marketing branding slogan for a company that he worked for, and it ended up being their marketing campaign for years. So, that kind of taught me that business can be fun, and you can just do a lot of innovative things. So I'm really thankful to my father, who was an entrepreneur. And then later in life, he started a restaurant chain. And so in high school, I was running restaurants. I was supervising restaurants. I was hiring and firing my peers. And as I mentioned to you before we recorded, one of the greatest lessons I had was one time when I came home from high school. I think I was in 10th grade at the time. And my parents said, "Well, honey, we need to talk to you." And they sat me down and told me that they had actually had to empty my savings account to pay payroll that day. And, I learned like what a sacrifice it is to be the one who signs the front side of the paycheck. And, I was, like I said, hiring and firing my peers, right? And they had no idea what was going on behind the scenes so that they could get paid, and we didn't. And that's so often the way with entrepreneurs. We pay everybody else. We pay our vendors, we pay our 1099 people, we pay our employees. And at the end of the line, we're going, is there any left for me? But it's such a great journey, and I wouldn't have it any other way. I mean, I have been a W-2 employee at times over my lifetime, but mostly I love being an entrepreneur and being self-employed because it gives me so much to so much freedom, so many choices.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, and that's incredible experience that young, like in high school, kind of learning about the ups and downs of entrepreneurship and having that hit so close to home where all your money got emptied out to make payroll.
They paid me back eventually, but
Yeah. So what was that experience like too? Like for you, like you said, you helped your dad with the marketing when you were very young. You got into, supervising and running, the businesses as a teenager. I mean, what was that like at that time, where so many other people aren't, it's like a different experience than most teenagers are having.
well, I felt older, and I actually got married young. I got married just a couple weeks after I turned 19, and I didn't feel like I was unprepared for life. We had our first child a year and a half later. I never felt like, oh, adulting is hard. I mean, when I grew up, adulting was not a verb. Like being an adult, it was not a verb. We just like I'm so thankful for the work ethic. My youngest daughter posted or sent me a meme she saw, and it was a guy in a car having a temper tantrum. It was one of these ones where the guy's screaming in the car, and he said, "The feeling you have when your parents leave you a generational work ethic instead of generational wealth." And we have 6 children and we've all laughed about that, but I've actually had them say they'd rather have the work ethic because they can create the wealth. So with a good, strong work ethic, you can create your wealth. You have your choices. And, and I homeschooled all my kids because I wanted to teach them how to think, not what to think. And that's what I do now with my Prosperity 101 work too, is really trying to help people understand how to think about issues and policies that affect their daily life and their business, their paychecks, but not what to think. I mean, if you give the people the right information, they'll come to a logical, right decision, but they have to have exposure to that information. Just like, I had to learn what it was to be an entrepreneur. As a mom, I had to study and learn how to be a great homeschool mom. I got involved in politics because I cared about freedom for my family. I wanted to make sure my kids grew up in freedom. And, and one thing led to another, led to another, led to another. And, at one point in life, I was second in command of a major presidential campaign. And who knew? I mean, I was a homeschool mom, but God had different plans. And I'm just really thankful. And when you are an entrepreneur, you have the opportunity also to pivot and, excuse me, and take what you've learned so that you can make it better, make yourself better, make your offerings better. You have the opportunity to learn. I feel like there's nothing worse than being in a position where you have all the responsibility and accountability of a position, but you have no authority or resources. And I've been in that position and I don't like it because, if your hands are tied to do the job that needs to be done, it's very, very unfulfilling. And so that's what I love about being an entrepreneur.
Okay, wow. So a whole lot to unpack there, and we will. But one thing I want to go back to is you mentioned you're so grateful for, such a strong work ethic that you learned growing up. But so being a mom is hard enough, and then 6 kids is incredibly difficult as an entrepreneur. But then on top of that, homeschooling 6 kids as a working mom, like to talk about what that experience was like and how did you manage such a monumental task?
Well, I would say one, I put my trust in Jesus Christ and prayed hard every single day, right? But prayer and God's strength, and I give all glory to God. But apart from that, there's seasons in life too. I truly believe that, yes, can women do everything and have it all? Same with men. Yeah, but you have to realize the seasons in life. For me, I took a step back professionally when my children were growing up. And I just did things out of the home that could be flexible to my children's schedule. So I wasn't managing restaurants when I was raising my children. I chose not to. I chose to stay home. And my job, my full-time job, was raising and homeschooling the kids. Everything else came second. And so, I look at the return on that investment that I made, and it was incredible, from college scholarships to just kids with great work ethics and great skill sets and wonderful adults that, I'm just so thankful for those years. I didn't, earn money the same way I may have had I stayed in the restaurant business, but the rewards were unbelievable. And I think that's one of the things we need to consider as entrepreneurs too, in whatever we do is, for me, my priorities are God, family, country. And so we have to look and say, what are my priorities? And every yes you have, there's going to be a no. Every no you have, there's going to be a yes. And so you have to look and say, what is most important? Like if I died today, what would be most important? And for me, it was making sure I had time with my children, raising them, teaching them, preparing them for adulthood, and everything else came on the side. So all my political work and everything was a volunteer until most of my children were out of the home. And then things began to escalate quickly. And before I knew it, I was, running a presidential campaign. But, I felt like that was just also, in a way, God honoring the fact that I kept my priorities. So to all entrepreneurs out there, any listeners, keep your priorities. The only thing eternal is the people that are around us. And, money doesn't buy happiness. Fame doesn't buy happiness. Power doesn't buy happiness, and a strong relationship with God and keeping great relationships with your family members. I mean, what's more important than that? So don't be afraid to put things at the side. I mean, I had years, just even more recently, where I was overseeing all the care for my mom. I had to turn down and not even pursue some of the things professionally that I was absolutely passionate about, that I knew I could do well with. I knew that I could excel, and it would take me places that I just couldn't wait to go. But at the same time, I knew I had to take care of my mom. And she was my highest priority at that point because she had no one else. And so it impacted me negatively financially. It impacted me potentially negatively professionally, but maybe not. I mean, the story is not done being written, right? But I look back and I say, I wouldn't trade any of that, because when my mom passed away, I was with her. And the very last thing that I did with her is I sang Psalm 23 to her, and she died as I sang the last verse, when it said, "And I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever." Um, that was her last breath. And I think that was all the payment I ever needed. So as an entrepreneur, I was able to say, I can make my work go around my family. My family comes first, my work comes second.
Yeah, that's incredible perspective too. And particularly like you said, the story is not done being written, but just seeing these different seasons of life. And then you can point, because you can always connect the dots looking backwards. So you can point to, like, listen, I sacrificed money and professional goals to really be there for my family. And then when the time was right, boom, like a blessing came right away because I had my priorities straight. And you can see that.
Right. Well,
Um,
and then, during that time when I couldn't travel as much and couldn't serve clients the way that I normally would, that's when I actually started my podcast. And I updated my book. People can get my book, prosperity101.com, or on Amazon, but they can contact me at prosperity101.com. But that's when I updated my book. I started my podcast. I created my online course that's available for employers to share with employees. I mean, those are things, I was able to pivot and say, okay, if I can't do what I normally do, like I normally can serve clients, I can travel around. This was before COVID, but then COVID hit, which impacted everybody negatively, right? So you have to learn to pivot and be able to say, well, what's the good in this, and how can I prosper in what I'm doing? And, I also think we have to look at that word prosper, or the word prosperity. I tell people, even though my company is Prosperity 101 LLC and my podcast is Prosperity 101, I tell people prosperity isn't just money. Prosperity is so much more. It is peace of mind. It is, human flourishing and freedom. Prosperity is really human flourishing and freedom. And that's one of the reasons I've been so involved politically, is because without that ability, without that freedom for human flourishing and, humans to thrive and grow and innovate and excel, what do we have? We don't have freedom. We don't have prosperity. True prosperity doesn't come from money. It comes from freedom.
Winning deals is as simple as the sales tools that you use. Pipedrive's easy and effective CRM lets you track your sales pipeline, manage deals, and automate the whole process so you can focus on one thing: selling. Join over 100,000 users worldwide driving business growth with Pipedrive. Customize your pipeline to match your unique sales process, sharpen your strategy with real-time performance insights, and centralize data from over 500 sales tools that you know and love. Make smarter, faster decisions with Pipedrive's AI sales assistant and win up to 3 times more deals with smart automations. Getting started takes minutes. Try Pipedrive today for free and unlock real results from day one.
I love that definition, right, for sure. And let's talk about some of this work, because it all ties together as far as your political work, your courses, the Prosperity 101 podcast. Like, talk about how that got started and why it means so much to you.
It means so much to me because actually, when I held my first child in my arms and he opened his eyes and looked at me, I felt God say, I want you to fight for freedom so he can grow up free. So to me, this is a calling. It's not just a job, it's a calling. So I have worked for free. I have worked for lots of money. The money part of it to me isn't what matters. It's fulfilling the calling that I have on my life. And that has, like I said, been everything from a presidential campaign to writing to, all kinds of things, right? But when I started Prosperity 101, it was because, excuse me, it was because I was talking to business owners all over my state that were telling me they would leave the state if a business-friendly governor wasn't elected. To which I immediately realized millions of people go to a voting booth every single election and vote themselves right out of their jobs. They have no idea. They have no idea that government does not create wealth. So all these people who think that government is the source of our sustenance, government programs and things, government has nothing until we give it to them first. And so the only way the economy can grow, and the only way even the government can grow, other than they keep printing money, causing inflation and things, but the only way the government can grow really in a healthy manner is to have healthy businesses. Business drives the economy. And business is what pays the employees. Business pays taxes. Employees pay taxes. Government has nothing until we give it to them first. And I think there's just a huge misunderstanding in our nation and really around the world about the role of government. I mean, our government was set up to protect our rights, not to give us our rights. Our government was set up to protect our opportunity, not to provide our opportunity. Like, we have this freedom, but we've let it go. And so as I was talking to these business owners all over, and one time I was talking to the nationwide top managers, hundreds of like 500 top managers from this very famous company, and I felt like the Lord told me they get it, but the people who stock the shelves and check people out in their stores don't get it. And I want you to write a book. So that's where this came in, the very first edition of this book. And it was really taking people through foundations of prosperity, really introducing them to the very basics of our system of government. Like, why can we even have this human flourishing and freedom? Why can we have this here in America versus some socialist or communist countries? What's the difference? So we're talking a 5th grade, very easy read introduction, right? Then the policies of prosperity, the very economic policies that make for good, sound economic policy and good business growth and development. And that means, lower taxation. If you tax something more, you get less of it. If you tax it less, you get more of it. Art Lapper said that. And it's shown itself true through history. So it's very simple things. And to anybody out there who's, been forced to pay a higher minimum wage or things, and you have to cut payroll because of it, we have to educate people and say, sometimes these unfunded mandates aren't as helpful as people think, right? So I take people very simply through foundations of prosperity, policies of prosperity, and then how to protect their prosperity by becoming informed, involved, and impactful. And that's incredible because it's just a basic civics course. I mean, it's the things people should have been learning in 5th grade, but didn't, right, in the last several generations. And I really, like any employers out there, I beg of you, start talking about these issues to your employees, because you are the last line of defense for our nation. If we think of the assembly line of education of American citizens, we go through preschool, grade school, high school, college, and it seems like now in college, they're learning to protest, they're learning to identify by all sorts of identifications that aren't necessarily factual, but they're learning how to protest, and they're begging us to pay for it while they do it, right? There's something wrong with this, right? So I say, okay, we've got these 20, 30, 40-year-olds in the workplace now. Who's taught them these basics? Who has taught to them, and who is better positioned than employers? And so to every business owner out there, I say, please please just educate your workforce. I have a free ebook on my website. You can just go get the free ebook, sign up for my podcast where we dive into all kinds of issues, whether it's the border, human trafficking, the economy, energy, education, school choice, family issues, everything. We dive into it and say, how does this affect a business? How does this affect a family? How does this affect a community? And connecting the dots. So, employers, please, please talk to your employees so they know when they go to vote what they're voting for. I also have, for anybody who really would like to do so before the election even, I have a really easy to use poster pack. You can just download these posters, print them off as many as you want. They're just, regular letter size posters that you can put up. But one of them I think is very significant. It is the Bill of Rights, and it says, are you voting for a person who will protect your rights? A lot of people have never even read the Bill of Rights. They really have never even read the Constitution or even just simply the Bill of Rights. And so if we can just get people to think about it a little bit, don't tell them, what to think, but just teach them how to think. And I think that's just one of our most important roles as, entrepreneurs, as citizens, as parents, as leaders. It's important.
And clearly, you're very passionate about this work and this project, this book you've written. What was the process like when you've not been an author? You've had a wide degree of experience, but then just got done homeschooling, and then you jump into politics, and then you have this calling to write this book. Like, what was that process like, having never done that before?
For me, it was easy because I've always been a writer. Okay. I've always been a writer, and it just was easy. And I feel, like I said, I felt like I was called. So literally I felt like the book was in my head before it ever hit the paper. And then the follow-up to that is I created a facilitator guide for employers. I did workshops. If any of your listeners want me to come and speak or do a virtual workshop or in-person workshop, or they want to use my online course, that's great. I also have, like I said, a facilitator's guide where it really helps. You can do it as a lunch and learn or a day-long seminar, or just have people work independently. It doesn't matter, but I really wanted to make it so easy. So for me, the process was just getting it down on paper, and then I had to learn, like, how do I publish a book? How do I do this? But again, you learn how to think, not what to think. So I learned to seek out people who knew more than me. And I think that's really important in business and in anything we do. We don't know everything, so we have to seek out the people who are the experts. And so I was able to do that, and I'm very thankful for that. I have another book coming soon, but I don't want to spoil the surprise yet.
All right. And, like you said, these concepts so often aren't talked about in that way, at the mainstream level. So what's the response been from these different companies you consult with and these different people you've been engaging with when you've been sharing your book and this work?
So many people say everybody in America should read this, should go through this. I mean, I've had CEOs and things of very, very large companies tell me every person in America should read your materials. It's so missing. It's so simple. It's so helpful. So really, it's been great. There has been some time, especially where people are maybe afraid to speak up, and I try to help them understand that this isn't even political. Like they may, I've had some people say, well, putting up the Bill of Rights and this poster that says, are you voting for a person who will protect their rights? Oh, I can't do that. That's too political. So I try to walk them through and say, that's not political at all. That is the basis of our nation, of what our founding documents are. That's what our nation, was built on, these freedoms, protecting these freedoms, and just helping people understand that, so they think about it and don't take it for granted. Usually they will go, oh, okay, but most of the time people are just thrilled to have the information. They love it. They wish I could get to more people. I feel thankful for that. So if anybody out there wants to help support the work, I have a prosperity partner link on my website, prosperity101.com. But also, if you're a business out there, I don't care how many employees you have, if you'd like to talk to me about licensing my material to use in your business, please contact me. I'd love to work with anybody who wants to get this information out.
Okay. And one more question too. So the podcast goes hand in hand with that work. The podcast is called Prosperity 101. So what made you decide to start the podcast?
Well, because I couldn't get to every business. Same with the online course. I mean, I used to go into businesses and do, on-site presentations. But obviously you can't reach every business like that, right? And I wanted to make something so easy and simple and accessible for people. And same with the podcast. I wanted to highlight these business owners and these policies and be able to help people kind of break it down and understand how policy affects paychecks. And so being able to interview business owners, being able to interview regular people who are in different jobs, and being able to interview experts in various areas, in energy or economics, or, I just interviewed a border patrol agent. And, I mean, these things are so important, and it helps people to see something a little behind the scenes. So to me, it was just a way to get the message out in a way that is much more accessible and understandable for the listener or the viewer, because life is so busy. We have so many things coming at us. And especially like if you're a business owner, you've probably got a family, you've got your business, you've got, if you've got kids, you've got baseball, soccer, orthodontist, all these things that you're running to. Life is so busy. It's hard to see through the mess, right? See through the chaos. And so my goal is just to kind of simplify that down and help people look at things in a little bit different way, where it's like, oh, I hadn't thought of it. You asked what people say a lot. So many people contact me and go, wow, I never thought about that issue like that. Or, wow, I never realized. And that gives me joy.
Love it. All right. And Linda, if people want to get in touch with you, find more about your work, how they can license your material, or just speak further about what you do, what's the best way that people can reach you?
Okay, well, my website is prosperity101.com, prosperity101.com. Please go there, fill out the contact form, and let me know that you heard this broadcast, and I'd love to be in touch with you. You can also reach me on LinkedIn, which is how you and I, Dave, connected. So that was great. Thank you for reaching out to me. But also I'm on Instagram, Linda_J_Hansen, Hansen, and prosperity_LLC. prosperity_101_LLC. So if you get to one, you'll get the other. But so you can get me on social media, get me at my website, prosperity101.com. And I'd love to hear from your listeners, and I'd love to help them in their workplace.
All right. And we'll link all that in the show notes for everyone as well.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And thank you for what you do. I think it's great that you encourage entrepreneurship. You encourage entrepreneurs, and it's really great to hear from other people, their own journey. It helps us when our journey seems, winding and maybe not, we're not looking at it from the top of the mountain. We're looking at the big hill up ahead, right? And it's encouraging to hear other people's stories. So I hope I've been an encouragement today.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the point of the podcast too, to bring other people's perspective and learn from their journey. And, we're all trying to do the best we can. And these stories, like the ones you've shared, certainly help others on their own journey.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So Linda, thank you so much for being here. And that is all the time we have for now. We will see you next time.